audio, just no video. I cannot look at myself now.
Oh.
Can you?
Well, just blacken the screen, man. That's what
Wow, why
So you can do that for
Not like, it's just remove video, that's all. Wow.
sorry.
Okay, welcome everyone to the last round of Health Pre-U. Government, we have APU A, opposition, we have Gilles and DM. I'm Luke, I'll be your chair. My preferred gender pronoun is he or they. If you guys would gender pronoun, if you don't have any or you don't want to say anything, then just come. So bye.
See you today.
Eric here.
Sadiq.
Sadiq here.
David, they.
Dave, he. Max, no.
Okay. Alright, so to begin the debate on children and something like to call upon the Prime Minister. Here.
Okay, children, so all of children.
Yeah, like, we all know what emotion is.
He's harsh reality and dream streams.
Yeah.
Hope and dreams, man. You can work hard at something, pour your blood, sweat, and tears into it, stay up for 10 hours a night, thinking about the best argument you could make. And I still might not win this tournament, and I might not win this round. But I would say that this is something that is important for me to be able to grow as a person, to understand my place in society and reality, and to be able to survive other failures that might happen. We say that the education system as is, that tells you as long as you work hard, anything can happen, your hope and dreams are most meaningful currencies. We call bullshit on that. We say it has failed us in preparing us not for any possible failures that might happen. Two things that we'll say before we start. Firstly, what is a harsh reality? And secondly, no, just one thing. Just what's a harsh reality, man? So when I asked Eric, what's a harsh reality? He looked at me and said, life is a hard reality. He told me he could give the world's best speech and he probably could fail. We say that often these things, like narratives that we talk about, such as just working hard will get you places, such as the American dream, where you attribute success to your own personal ability to work hard, we say a lot of these things don't talk about the nuances of you just being lucky. Lucky to have the ability, lucky to be in a family that allows you and affords you the opportunities to go to certain schools, to go to certain jobs, and to have the connections that you otherwise would not have. We say the fact that sometimes failure just means you're going to keep failing at something. Sometimes the reality that you might love something but not be able to do it for the rest of your life. Sometimes you're just not good. Sometimes even if you succeed, you are not good at that thing, or someone else worked harder. It's a hard truth that people need to talk about. We think this often, the fact that we talk about hope and optimism, often excludes the narrative of talking about people who do fail. Because the only way to talk about hope is often in isolation. It's often to talk about, oh, look at all these people who succeed. You can be like that person. No one wants to talk about a person who isn't Bill Gates, who dropped out of Harvard or Stanford, and isn't Mark Zuckerberg. We think that's problematic. How does this then prepare kids? Kids have been told for the entirety of their life that as long as they work hard, often are not prepared to fail at all. That means when a child goes for UPSR, for example, I don't think they have it anymore. But when they fail and they got like 5 A's, probably their hopes and dreams were crushed. Or even to go so far as like a lot of companies tell you that if you don't get a 3.5 CGPA, I'm not going to take you. We often don't see an alternative way that you can live. We think that is problematic because we think on Gulf side, there is a world that tells you, oh, just dream, without telling you that often these failures happen because of other things that are wrong. Not sure.
Can you tell us how you would teach these harsh realities in a school curriculum, and if you would exaggerate these harsh realities while teaching it to kids?
We would say we probably wouldn't exaggerate the harsh realities, because we think harsh realities don't really need to be exaggerated anymore, otherwise they wouldn't be so harsh. But we also say that we could probably incorporate it in your curriculum just as any other like subject, etc., or having like counseling classes in like that are even more serious about it and talk specifically about issues about how do you live life after your school, how do you live life if you fail. We say that in society that has, but we say that on our side, we are more likely to get more resilient kids because they have been exposed to the idea of possibly failing, and they probably know that sometimes failure just means you need to pick up and try at something else. We say on their side, you're more likely to get people more likely to break, more likely to suffer from depression and anxiety because they often feel there is no other world than our success, that my hopes and dreams mean everything. But we even say if someone just blindly follows their hopes and dreams, e.g., I want to be an artist, I don't eat, I don't sleep just to work on my art. Sometimes people don't make that rational calculus in terms of hope blinding them to be able to perhaps talk about other opportunities that they might be more suited for, to look about other avenues that they might succeed in. We think that's something that hope blinds you to. But we also, Secondly, we'll tell you about how this changes society. What do we change under our? We told you firstly why the children might be less resilient, but we say that a world that talks about success in terms of your hope and optimism is often a society that predicates all your successes upon just people working hard, aka your individual ability. What does this mean? This sounds a lot like the rhetorics that often Republicans use to not talk about poor people in terms of them not working hard enough. And the point at which that we allow for just hope and optimism to take root, you just say, hey, you just didn't work hard enough. You think that in and of itself is problematic. But we also say when they use this rhetoric to other people, it is often dismissive towards the failures and the circumstances that other people might find them in. For example, if you happen to live in a ghetto, or happen to live in any other environment that made it difficult for you to succeed. We say it then tends to spill over to individualistic ways that you interact with other people. Sure.
So a kid who's told that his life will not improve is more likely going to join gangs, more likely going to pick up the gun, more likely going to sniff cocaine. Why is that life more meaningful to that child?
We say that the harsh realities of life are not necessarily all negative. They can be nuanced and they can be meaningful. We say not just that you work hard and your dreams can be achieved, but also telling them specific nuances in terms of if you work hard, you might find something you love, you might find something that you don't love. Or we could even stop them from glamorizing the idea that crime is a good thing. We could probably tell them that sometimes choices that people make are bad, and one day you could extricate yourself from being a gang member in those specific instances. Hopes and optimisms don't feed anyone. What did we tell you in this debate? Firstly, we told you how the failure of the education system has made us believe that success is often by individual ability, and not just other circumstances. We told you why we need this to be able to prepare kids for the nuances of the realities of living in this world, this often cruel world, and be able to take concrete actions as a result. We told you that it is important to prepare them for failure so that they would be able to know what happens in the case that occurs. For the side that wants to help children,
Thank you, Prime Minister, for the speech. To begin case from opposition, I call on leader.
Just give me a second. The existing unprivileged children's potential and skill is very important. An African American who have been dreaming to be a president and worked very hard for it, and that's because of hope. The harsh reality defeats the hard work that they have. If Obama was taught this way with this harsh reality, maybe we will have this African American president. Let's deal with side government first, because according to side government, they want to like these children needs to understand the harsh reality because there's some possible failures that is being neglected. I think that the moment when you actually teach people the harsh reality, either two things that will happen. First, either they will only work less harder because of knowing that they're going to fail anyway. Or secondly, they'll just give up and not going to school at all because of knowing that whatever you do or whatever you're going to do, whatever alternative that you're taking, you will fail anyway. And I think that's one reason why children should be giving hope that they can build upon. And then according to them, if we don't talk about the problem, the failure, it's problematic. But I don't know why is it problematic. They don't tell us anything about it. But they pure and tell you ask if you're going to exaggerate or not. They said no. But if you don't exaggerate, you won't get the outcome that you want to talk about because they'll take it as less important and nothing is going to happen, right? And secondly, if you say that they're not working hard enough, let's deal with this, right? I think that with hope, they will work more harder, and the time that they'll be able to fight against this thing that actually people talk about, that's when they're going to appreciate their life better. And it makes your eye to you, right? Harsh is not, and then they said that harsh is not always negative. Yes, but I don't think you deal with the harsh reality that is negative. You only tell us that the harsh reality is positive without dealing with the negative things. Our position in this debate is that we think that instilling hope and optimism improves the learning experience of the children in school. What will our work look like? On our work, we think that we'll always prioritize optimism. We'll always have the optimistic spin on curriculum. Firstly, kids will be told as special. Kids will be told to do great things. A system like education that can help you. For example, sports can help you through the rough life that you actually have. For example, people who is very poor and now knowing that he wanted to be a footballer, for example, and not having the hope itself, you literally kill these people and defeat the things that make them happy, and I think it's problematic. The metrics in this debate is about what is the most persuasive ingredient formative of years of children in school, and secondly is what creates holistic experience during school day. First argument, why is it principally important to instill hope and optimism? Because firstly, what is optimism actually, right? We think that it's a positive foresight of future. That, for example, you'll be rich by becoming certain occupation. With birth or lottery, you will not be affected with your birth. For example, you're being poor, you'll be able to be rich in future, right? I think that side government is going to defeat this hope that these people can be rich to begin with. This means that all the poor people that actually have the hope right now is going to be defeated, and I think it's harmful. And I think that teaching shouldn't aggravate the hardship of the birth of lottery. Why would they aggravate, right? Because you don't know what will happen in your life in future, and limiting your life because of harsh expectation kill and defeats all the hope that actually can happen, right? What does this mean? This means that uncertain life deserves hope, because positive foresights give the meaning of life, right? For example, birth of lottery of poverty. The positivity makes them fight better and wake up with inspiration. In your work, they will see a reason not to go to school. On our work, they'll see reason to go to school, right? This means that when they don't have the inspiration and wake up with this harsh reality, and they're not going to be able to concentrate. Second argument, what will hope inspire students to do? I think that the narrative of hope is a psychological superstructure. This means that even though reality is limiting, they can live with the good thoughts itself, without having to worry about the bad things that is going to happen. We think that they'll be driven to continuously fight against the struggle instead of being defeated on side government. So I think like harsh reality how will harsh reality react to the child's behavior, right? Because if child go to school without motivation, this means that these children will not work as hard as they could be if they actually have the hope to begin with, right? What does this mean? This means that the teacher, the school itself will not help you to begin with, because teachers who genuinely want to teach will lose the incentive to teach the better for the children because of knowing that the children itself doesn't want to work at all. This means that they will be put in back classes. Either two things that will happen, right? Firstly, students won't even try, and secondly, teacher don't care about you because you don't want to try, right? This means that you harm the potential of the existing children that actually have the hope on our side. This means that you actually harm the children, right? We think that in school, where students spend most of their life, their lived experience, they'll be more likely to be stunted in life if you go to side government. And we think that the third thing is they won't be incentivized to invest to improve themselves, right? Because of birth lottery, for example, which is very harsh. On our side, we will say that talent and hope, everything that tell you that birth lottery is not one of the reasons you will fail. We think that on side government, they'll continuously say, oh, because you're poor, you'll never be able to be rich to begin with because you don't have the education. We think that on our side, we actually give them this hope. That's the reason why some children from a not very great school can success, right, in our world today. On comparative, they'll be best of themselves inside opposition. In your world, they'll just give up, and I think it's just problematic. What's the harms of the harsh reality? We think that firstly, this means that formative children will spend and has a lot of consequences, right? Meaning that when they're defeated, but before we finish,
can you draw us a link on why teaching harsh reality means you cannot teach success as well? Because I don't see how it's entirely problematic to tell the guy you can be a footballer, but also coming with being a footballer and injuries or things that probably disallows you from becoming or reaching this range.
No, but if you actually tell them that they're not going to success by being a footballer, that's the reason why they're not going to work, right? I've explained that literally just now. Okay, so formative child span has a long consequences. Meaning that when they're actually defeated by side government's proposal, they don't have the incentive to look at the future. This means that they act on their immediate desperation. For example, committing crime because of knowing that they're going to fail anyway. And secondly, we think that deterrent is good for people for good foresight, right? Not for people who don't need it. This means that we need to give hope for the people who actually need it the most. For example, the people who need this hope to be a better person. And the second thing, the worst thing that is going to happen, these people will just leave school and will choose not to go to school because of the incentive, because of not having the incentive, because the harsh reality is just too hard for them. It's just too hard for them. We know rules is not up in our head, but we need to fight, and hope is the minutiae of this fight. Most of those I'm very proud to host.
Thank you all for your speech to defend the case of the government. I'd like to call on differences.
The side opposition is right in this debate, and the reaction to children knowing about the harsh realities is that they give up on what, according to what they said. Then it must mean that on your side, when you instill hope and they encounter the harsh realities, they will definitely give up on your side of the house. Because note, all their argumentations were reasons why the harsh realities will lead people to giving up. We prepare people for those harsh realities. You don't. Harsh realities are a fact of life. They will still encounter it on your side of the house. Three things in this speech. Firstly, life is harsh. Secondly, people who fail. And then thirdly, I want to deal with meritocratic hubris and why we think that is extremely important in this debate. On the first issue, life is harsh. I think what is important to point out here is hard work isn't enough. That's what we're going to tell children on our side. I don't think you need to buy this characterization that we got from LO, that we need to tell children that you can't be successful because that's just bullshit. We're not going to tell them that you can't be successful. I think the sort of message we're going to promote is that hard work isn't enough. It also takes some arbitrary factors like luck. Not every startup succeeds. Not everyone who becomes a millionaire, not every person gets into that dream job. I don't think we need to create specific classes just in response to that PY. I think this is just something that needs to be on an underlying narrative that we have when educating children in state school. That is to say, when you're giving an example in class, we ought not to give people an idea that you're going to be successful just because you work hard, because that in itself is just promoting the idea of hope. We also tell them that you might not be lucky enough to succeed, but that's a reason why they're more likely to want to work hard anyways, because that increases your arbitrary luck for you to actually gain success at all. That's why the argument that people are just going to drop out and turn into smoking doesn't exactly make sense, because now they realize that it's even harder, and that means if at all you have to succeed, you have to work hard. The distinction between golf and luck is that they are more cognizant of the fact that there is an arbitrary factor of luck in the equation. I think what UP has to defend is a world in which you seep into the minds of people unconsciously the idea that you will be successful simply because you work hard, simply because you are bright, and tell people that you are actually good in itself. I think that means you disproportionately portray the successes that you have in status quo, and that's why you have the actual exaggeration on your side. Why is this bad? This is bad because when unmet expectations exist, I think that's what leads to the height of frustration and people actually having difficulty in continuing. That means if you're a child who is told, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, when you get into law school and reality slaps you in your face, that's a world in which you give up and you no longer want to strive anymore again. But when you're told from the start that you might not make it, it's hard for when people get into law school. That's a world in which you have the stomach to go in and expect that harsh reality. I think that's a world that is better on our side of the house. Because what is important to note is children know that they don't have to engage with these harsh realities now because they're still under the protection of their parents. Yes, yeah. But they know that they have to expect it in the future. On your side, there is zero expectation, and they simply just meet it all of a sudden. I think that is important. The importance of this argument is the education system has to promote and prepare people for the future. I don't think you do that at the point in which you don't tell them what it is that they're going to expect in the future. That's why the argument that someone is going to drop out isn't exactly true, because they're just more likely to want to prepare themselves for that harsh reality that they're going to face in the future. Let's engage with the scenario of people who fail, not yet. Right, so I think three responses to this. Firstly, I think there is no net increase in failures on our side of the house, because note, regardless of hope or no hope, people will still fail in this world. I think that's something I need to come to terms with on their side of the house. I think it's more likely for people to fail on their side at the point in which you have unrealistic expectations put on many people, and those unrealistic expectations are met with compliments and constant praises for these people. When you tell them that you can succeed in medicine, you can succeed in law, even if you're not doing too well in maths, you can succeed. If you create a startup, you will be the next Bill Gates and you'll be the next Mark Zuckerberg. I think that's a world in which more people are likely to fail because they are completely unprepared for any of these things. But secondly, I think what's important is we promote that tough skin that allows people to actually cope, and we tell them that you need to work hard, but that won't be enough. But definitely that is part of the equation in this debate. Thirdly, I think we provide a better world for failures now and engage with that now. Before I go on, Sean.
Yeah, success. The reality of life is also that success comes in many different forms. But with hope, you would tell this individual that success can exist in different forms and you can access them. How does harsh reality create a positive spin in life and make sure that individual can keep on fighting?
Yeah, so okay, first of all, even if you tell people that can come in different areas in life, there is no guarantee that those different areas they would actually achieve that success in those areas. But secondly, I don't think it's the truth that people are told that you can achieve in different areas based on the fact that people actually dream big, right? So for example, there's hardly anybody who wants to be a successful driver. There are people who want to be a commercial driver. There are people who want to be successful billionaires. I think that's where the criteria ends. Except if you have to concede that if someone wants to be a billionaire, you tell them that you can't be a billionaire. You have to look for other areas in life. I don't think that is what you have to depend on in this debate. Moving on to my argument on meritocratic hubris. I think what's important to note here is, look, we are told in status quo and we raise children to pull themselves off their bootstrap. You know, just keep trying. If you fail, you just keep trying and trying again. I think the reason why this is bad is children are told that meritocracy is all that exists is that you have to merit certain things. I think that is wrong and that is bullshit in status quo. Because what happens is children are then told, if you give up, if you don't succeed, it must be your fault. It's not because you weren't lucky. It's not because of the lottery of birth. It's not because of the environment you found yourself. It's not because of those arbitrary constraints. It's because you didn't do well. You didn't work hard. The importance of this argument is, at the point in which many of these people get into society, those are the people who don't care anymore. I think what's important here is, on our side of the house, when you are humble enough to believe that luck was part of the things that put you into a place where you actually are able to get access to success, that's when you're more likely to actually care about other people. That's
you're more likely to have things. So instead, so you have things such as healthcare debates, and people are like, if you can't make the money, it must be your fault, right? You need to be able to get that money to get healthcare. That sort of blatant, unrealistic expectations is what I think you promote on your side of the house. When people are necessarily opposed to things like progressive taxations, welfare, charity to help the vast majority of people. I think on our side, when we promote the message that you won't definitely succeed and luck plays a high role in your success, that's a world in which many people in society then want to lend their help to other people because they know that it wasn't their fault, but it was an arbitrary constraint. The importance of this argument is the education system is supposed to promote people, to create a better society. I think you create a society in which people don't care about their next door neighbor and don't care about people suffering. Even if people fail and suffer on our side, that's a better world for them. I'm extremely proud to propose.
Thank you, Speaker, for your speech. Continue the debate about the
The only thing I will agree on with side government is that success and failure are arbitrary outcomes. And it is true in the world that for some people, success or failure is more likely depending on the privileges you have in your life. At that point, we must ask ourselves, for a child, what does that child have full autonomy and control over? The only autonomy and control they have over is the amount of hard work they have and the belief they have in themselves to pursue this hard work in order to think they may possibly achieve success or failure. On that note, I have 2 points of rebuttal before my argument on how hope and optimism prepares children to manage life's big chapters, and these big chapters will be broken down to careers and the personal goals for their children. 2 points of rebuttal. Number one, do you prepare children for the future if they are thought about harsh realities only? Their contention on harsh realities is that children must be taught that sometimes you only succeed because of luck, and sometimes you fail because you were not born in a rich family or you lacked the access to things that would have made you more successful. The point that they missed here was the very reason of why people work hard or why people attempt to pursue these goals for themselves. Because their link is, if they know of these harsh realities, I will now have the stomach to want to do well in law school. Understand that there's a logical flaw in that. Because if I know of those harsh realities, I will be more conservative in the risk calculations I make. Because I want to avoid the damage of consistently being met with failures. Because I feel if I don't try and if I put my energy into something that could be more likely successful, that's where I might be successful. And at that point, when they're met with the same amount of failure, you lose any stomach for wanting to pursue anything to begin with. And I use the words that Eric used, right? At the height of the frustration of unmet expectations, when you fail, you do not attempt to pursue or continue working harder because you know in school you were taught at that point of failure, that's when it validates the fact that these harsh realities will always limit you from pursuing anything successful. The comparative is on our side. When you are met with that same amount of failure, because you're instilled with optimism and because you're instilled with hopefulness, you are more likely to stomach the failure and say, it's okay, I will continue moving on, even if I'm at that height of frustration. We think that's a benefit that children will accrue on their side. At the very least, the schools do not validate the first attempt of failing means that's the only limit, that's the only expectation you can have on yourself. No, thank you. But secondly, does optimism lead to believing in meritocracy? Now, I don't understand what the link is between the moment you're optimistic, you believe everything about the world is meritocratic. Because understand that on our side, those harsh realities do not suddenly disappear from that child's life. They will meet these harsh realities anyway. But the question is, how should I tackle these harsh realities? Should I be meeting these harsh realities, and when I fail, be validated by the fact that, oh, this is where my limitation ends for me, and this is the furthest I can go to achieving a goal? Or do I now decide to overcome this obstacle and continue moving further? At that point, that's when you're more likely to fight for the successes you want to have. Because the world isn't as meritocratic as it wants to be, right? Some people lose on their ability to pursue certain things. But at that point, the only control you have is to continue working harder in spite of the lack of meritocracy, not because of it. So on our side, that hopefulness and sense of optimism means that you as a child in that formative years of school, more likely to put aside the failures you might have in order to believe that despite me not having some meritocracy, I can still do well. Because on their side, African American children, Hispanic children who go to school and continuously be invalidated by the fact that they do well in school, they're bullied in school. These are reasons why they will leave school and not stay in school. At the very least on our side, these are reasons for them to stay in school because of the fact that there is still some hope for me to do well. So the conclusion to this is you cannot just disengage with David's analysis to say, oh no, they won't drop out of school, because they're more likely to drop out of school on your side because of the validation you give to these schools when they face these realities. Go ahead.
When are people more likely to help others? When they are told that the reason those people need help is because they haven't worked hard enough, or if they are told that they just weren't lucky?
So people are more likely to help other individuals, especially if those individuals are seen to be working their hardest and not being able to meet that, and not being met with that same level of success, right? Because understand, you cannot just say you are successful and accept the fact that some luck was part of that success, because that luck translates into actual structures in the world that on their side doesn't change as well. They have to prove why people are more likely to fight against things that are privileged against you, or the structures that are made against you, and still be able to achieve that same level of success. We're not denying that reality. We're saying that even if you have all these structures that are built against you, you're more likely to be able to find a way around it and achieve that kind of success. We think that's important for the meaning of that journey this child takes. But going on into my argument, the premise of this is very important. That when a child is in school and they spend a large amount of their formative years being exposed to the constant narrative that you must meet life's challenges and realities with optimism and hopefulness, how will they be able then to tackle things like their careers and their personal goals? Because in both sides of the world, your ability to be employed or to secure a certain type of position comes from you maybe being able to achieve a certain GPA or having an exemplary CV. But this distinguishes based on a person's access to certain things. Now, they have to prove that if you are faced with harsh realities, how will that child who's not had access to a lot of these privileges still be able to achieve, still be able to make that decision to pursue that hard work in order to achieve some level of outcome? Because on our side, we tell these children that even if you may be facing all these, even if the structures are not built to support you, you still have a reason to continue fighting. We give more reason to these children to continue fighting, right? Because what's the alternative? You wait for the CGPA to drop, you wait for more equitable selection before you can achieve some kind of success. We think children on our side will likely take that journey of being successful in their hands and not be defeatist, because we think in their side that mindset of the moment you're defeated, you're demoralized is likely to occur on these children. But how then do you achieve better success in your struggles or in your personal goals? Ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, why do people rally behind movements like Black Lives Matter? Why do people rally behind movements like for feminist causes? It's because of that inalienable hope that some kind of change can be accrued. When you instill this narrative into children, they are more likely to rally behind causes like that and not be defeated the moment they do not have access to particular types of things. We think that's the comparative is they won't just be bounded or limited by the fact that they are now oppressed communities or they are minorities that cannot do well, but they can do well in spite of these things because they have that motivation to continue fighting forward. The reality in the world of government is that the moment they are faced with results that do not match what they hope to do, that's when they are likely to give up, as compared to on our side, where the driving factor is, in spite of everything that could be against you, you can still achieve some kind of success. Because at the end of the day, it's not about whether you win or lose, but it's the journey that you have, and that's the most meaningful experience for people.
Thank you, Daniel, for your speech. Now I get to government, I call upon government.
Two things I'll be talking about in my speech. Firstly, on this idea of teaching hope and the illusion it brings with it when we teach people on hopes and optimism, and how that does not automatically translate to the benefit, the kind of benefits they want to run. And secondly, what does our world mean in terms of future changes, right? But firstly, let's look at this in terms of future. So firstly, I think this idea that they've just been hinging on that the only reason why people are incentivized to move ahead in life are just because of those hopes and optimism that we teach them. I think they've underplayed the entire idea that it actually never really prepared people for the other side of what comes along with those hopes and dreams. The fact that you could get crushed when trying to pursue those hopes, or the fact that you might never actually reach those dreams are things that they face. We think the important thing to compare in this debate are simple. Does not entirely mean because you're teaching harsh reality to kids on outside of the house, you cannot teach them success, right? It does not mean it has to be all negative that you need to crush everybody probably in status quo or prep schools, right? It does not entirely mean like a bunch of like schools will just be negligent towards solving or at least pushing people towards having a better life, right? So how does all those things don't really like playing on their side of the house? Because one thing we need to understand, right? As humans, right, we're built to like have dreams and hopes, right? What we are doing from side government in today's debate is simple. We are challenging all those pre-existing or pre-existential hopes that already exist within these people and telling them, yeah, these are things you might as well consider, or these are things you might as well face or go through in life. How does this entirely change things? Because let's look at the naivety in their case, or the kind of hypocrisy in what we've been teaching people in school. We tell people, you can do this. Like, if you become an engineer or medical doctor, you can be successful. Like, if you're drifted towards being creative or going through startups, you can be the next Bill Gates, right? But what exactly do this mean in those vast majority of the world, right? Because like it or not, right, all we show society is just like that 1 or 2% of Bill Gates or probably Mark Zuckerberg that exists in the world, undermining or ignoring the fact that probably millions or hundreds of millions are being crushed by these dreams that they want to talk about because of the mere fact that they were not prepared for those failures. Meaning, on the side of the house, for this large majority of people, it becomes a lot of difficult for these people to recover from those discussions. Because like it or not, two things we need to understand, right? On both sides of the house, right? Have hopes or dreams as such, right? People will meet harsh reality along the line. The question then becomes, who prepare kids for this harsh reality? And here is our conclusion as something they fail to engage with, right? We told you on the idea that when you're teaching hopes and dreams to kids, right, you're not like entirely dismissing the fact that you probably cannot achieve something good in your life, or everybody just becomes a dropout, right? Because when you're telling an African American that you are underprivileged and these are the things you need to work with, it's not likely that that kid is going to give up or just adopt like the criminal world that you're talking about, because you also have an incentive to teach them on how to live within those difficulties, right? Meaning, if you're telling them you need to work as twice harder as your white counterpart is what gets you to your dream or whatever hopes you probably might have that we are challenging, right? These are things that you need to face in terms of reality. It does not come easy. You just cannot tell people that, yeah, become a lawyer, probably from a grad school in Compton, and compare them to probably someone that is privileged enough to attend Harvard or Cambridge. So all these differences are things we need to understand. But the same thing also exists within the spectrum of people that are privileged, because the benefits we are claiming from this life, even if you're privileged and you have all these advantages, we teach you this harsh reality in order for you to be able to relate to the problems people that are not as privileged as you go through in society. So you don't just tell people that you succeed because you work hard. We need to also make them understand that a lot of other people have worked even twice as harder or even twice as harder, but they have failed. You are just lucky to succeed within your circumstance. How does this change things, right? It kind of undermine or rule out this idea of meritocracy that they've just interpreted in the speech. It's not about that, the world is like just plain blue, black paper, where if you do this, this is the certain result, right? It's arbitrary in nature, right? So what we're trying to say here is this, right? They live in a world where it makes it even difficult to fight for this underprivileged. How? Because if you keep telling people that you shouldn't get that you're poor, or because you're underprivileged in society because you just didn't work as hard enough, this is where you create a world where people are less sympathetic towards each other. This is the world where the white or even those Republicans will tell you you're probably failing because you're not working as hard enough, right? So that's when it makes it difficult to actually fight or protect for individuals. So what we're changing is this, right? If you at least expose people to this other side of reality, that's when they are able to better sympathize with each other. Yes, Dave?
The burden in your side is to say that the moment you have failed on your side, these difficulties are things you need to learn to accept. Sure. But if it is true you're going to tell them to work twice as harder, why is it better that they work twice as harder under such a negative tone coming out from your
I think our words still tell, I think we've even went further to provide you like on education why you teach them how to overcome those harsh circumstances on the world. So you don't just keep telling people that, yeah, it's a terrible world out there, so please, like, don't even try, right? That's just a naive educational system. That's not even an educational system. In the first place, obviously, you need to teach them that, yeah, as much as it's difficult in life, right, but here are the things you have to do, and these are just the bitter truth. And if you are unable to do these things, fine, you may fail, right? And things like that. It's still okay for you to fail in circumstance, right? So you don't just tell them that, yeah, keep trying, and undermine or not allow them to weigh all the other possibility that could exist for them in time by just being blindsided to the idea that, yeah, I have to be a doctor or I have to start my own startup before I can be the next Mark Zuckerberg. You need to let them understand that you may not necessarily reach those dreams. You may not be the next Mark Zuckerberg, but you have to be actually deal with certain reality that exists. This changes the fact that when people eventually get into these things, they don't have the expectations that they have to succeed because my teacher is putting me. I will succeed if I become an engineer.
Thank you, Robin, for the speech. And the part that I called on.
This is the story of a young kid, black kid, who has a keyboard in his rented bedroom with tin foils around and played music. 20 years later, he went on to be Kanye West. He single-handedly thought the keyboard could change the world and music could change the world. He unfortunately is strong and has hope, but many of us don't. And to the many of us that go to school, that these individuals of the Gulf will tell us that we are defeated even before we get free. That the horrors of others will become your fate and will continue to become your fate. You are told that you are a single individual that will not be the institution. I will tell you that they are wrong. This debate is about three things. It is not about, well, I agree that some of this reality is true, some of this reality may be assumptive. The question in this debate is which narrative is the more constructive one. And on the government bench, we would first analyze that bit. And then we're going to analyze in which world will the pursuit of this individual will be more likely going to be better. And in second, what happens when individuals fail? Will they recover better or will they be destined to do? But before that, let us just deal with one part of this debate that I don't think is contentious. Because this whole idea that came out from second speaker and extended by the whip was this idea of fighting for people under your privilege. I don't know, I think this is a bit out of context given the debate is about education as a whole, and I think there was no real nuance as to how kids will become social justice warriors to change. But hear me out. I think the point is that individuals are more likely going to get the benefit of the doubt with hope, rather than to just prima facie assume that because of your struggle, you are not going to be successful. Right? I think the debate today needs to revolve around these things. Let's move on to the first issue. Like, in which world is this narrative a more constructive one? Like, I think the government trying to confuse us by saying that this harsh reality can be a positive one. No, because even using your most comprehensive characterization of harsh reality, it sounds like the most discouraging and defeating narrative. I'm unsure how individual will fight strongest. Kids during the formative years do not respond like Eric, right? They do not have the mental capacity, or they're not exposed to the information structure like us. The moment they are told that you will not be good in maths because you don't have there's historical reason how African Americans don't do well in school, this kid is more likely going to respond very negatively. Why would I participate in the school which I continuously fail? And the question is, the question is, in which world would you get defeated more? In our world, we would tell this kid, you need to find the right subject, you need to do something well about it. Maybe it's not school, you should try basketball and other things. There is some meaning to your life. This individual will just tell you that the classroom in the school is a place you don't belong. Then the comparison begins. And this is where I think David's material was completely dismissed. We told you that's when your birth lottery and the hardships of your birth lottery is more likely going to be aggravated. Given that the child is not psychologically equipped to deal with these complexities, this child will be more likely going to defeat and blame this individual. The nuance that came out from Op was that life is a continuous process, and every step of the way, individuals need to fight and fight stronger. And in those words, in every step and every effort, you are told you are being shut down by an institution that is stronger than you. You are told the statistic of others means that you are more likely going to do the same. It never gives you the space for you to develop yourself or invest in yourself, and that is the problematic aspect of their life. And now I'm going to deal with this whole issue about luck, right? And in any success that you get in the Gulf world, you will be delegitimized because you'll be told that luck is an important ingredient. Let me tell you this. This will be a deal breaker, and I'll break the deadlock. Unfortunately, the most hardworking and the most invested individual are the ones who are able to access luck. The individual that put in hours and hours of working and inspiring to one day get the one lucky opportunity is the individual that get their break. This is how Kanye got his break through Sony. And I will tell you that even though luck is an ingredient, they make it a complete authority of your life. And in our world, people are more likely going to be positioned where they are more likely going to be lucky rather than more likely going to be unlucky.
Right, so I think this is a wonderful Op extension speech, but there are two scenarios that are probable. It's possible that someone would give up. It's also possible that someone would be incentivized to work harder. Can you just not make the analytical jump, but tell us why that people giving up is more likely?
Yeah, I think I'll deal with this in my second issue, but I don't think this is an extension space. I'm literally responding to your argument about luck. They came out in bits and pieces and studying extension about it. If luck is a prima facie, if you want to debate on luck, then you've got to be expecting the response on luck as well, right? So I think people in our world are more likely going to be searching for lucky opportunities and be telling themselves that my day is going to come and not be defeated. Let me move on to the second issue. Let's talk about pursuit. And this is where the government bench completely lost this debate. Because David told you in his speech that your personal discovery will be stunted. You won't venture into things that are meaningful in your life. And I think this, for an individual, they're more likely going to respond. Like if the education system completely fails them, they're going to find safe and secure options. They're going to not look into the prospective nature of future. They're going to take things that are immediate. That's why they're more likely going to be susceptible into gang culture that gives them big money. They will not going to be, the deterrent effect of the criminal justice system is not going to affect them because they will feel like, what's the point of living if I'm already dead and I'm not alive in any form? In fact, I think even in the most reasonable situation, people will be coerced in doing something they completely don't like. If I want to be a literature professor, like, an irrational individual will think that, oh my God, reading about Shakespeare gives me so much fulfillment. Even though I don't get paid much, this is such a good thing I do in life. For those individuals, you will force them to enter jobs that they don't want to enter, and they'll be coerced in doing something really, really, really painful for the rest of their life. So the pursuit of individual can be single-handedly be characterized or be directed into a way in the painful outcome. And I think they do this to this individual. Now let's move on to the last part. What happens? You fail. And this is where I think Dave's material was better. Because in life, you will fail often. And when you fail often, it's at that point, at that juncture, you need to pick yourself up. Coupled with David's narrative, that hope is the only positive support structure that you build in yourself that drives you to continue fighting. Today might not be your day, but tomorrow might be. You might fail the test, but you won't be defeated. In their world, the moment you fail, you would blame the institution, and you're more likely going to submit to the harsh reality. That's why you won't do this. In our world, people will, even if they continuously fail, they will slowly come to terms to it. In your world, they will be completely averse to the idea. They will never be able to accept it, and that's why it's a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, this debate is not about the individual struggles that we face. It's about how we pick ourselves up and how we become stronger. hope is the ammunition for these kind of experience, and that's why it's the duty of the government to provide most hopeful things for this individual. Like David said, and I'll be repeating this in my speech, in my closing line, win or lose, it is out of our hand. But the fight that we choose can be determined by ourselves and should be determined by faith.
Thank you. I'd like to wrap up.
Government team did not want to concede or did not want to reach a middle ground in what they wanted to achieve at the end of this debate. Why? Because they said that when you are taught about the world's harsh realities, you prepare them to deal with it. And what do we hear about this preparation? We heard it in whip speech that, oh, you should just work twice as hard as other people. But the thing is, when you're constantly told to understand or to accept that even if you have expectations, these expectations may not be met, and if they are not met, it's because you didn't have luck or your structures were built against you, and the only thing you can do about it is to work twice as hard. For a child in a school, that is extremely demoralizing. Because why would a child care to try hard enough if it's already ingrained in that child's mind that no matter what I do, I won't be able to control it because there's some element of luck that I do not have control over. There's some element of more privilege that I do not have control over. You validate the realities of failures for these individuals. You do not prepare them to do more than that. The one overarching question that I'll ask in my reply speech is, which narrative prepares a child to deal with life's harsh realities? Let's look at a comparative of what a child's life would look like on their side and on ours. So understand that some harsh realities that will immediately fall onto a child is that you may fail an exam, you may not get selected into a sports team, you may even get rejected from a university. At this point, the child must make a decision. One, to accept the reality that that is as far as the child can go, because on their side, this is when the failing of the expectation materializes. This is when they attempt to prepare you to deal with this reality, because we never heard any clarification as to what extent that preparation helps this child. Because on the comparison in our side, when you are met with this harsh reality and you fail, we think it's the immediate narrative is it's okay. You still have it in you to do well. We think that kind of positive connotation is continuously ingrained in a child, psychologically prepares them to deal with the harshness of realities. We think that psychological preparation is a positive connotation that a child can hold on to in spite of what that child may be facing in terms of their failures. Because at the end of the day, when they do try and attempt to try harder, that must come from a point of perspective, not from one that is defeated entirely, but one that continues to believe that in spite of my failures, I can still do well. This is the preparation they do not give the child at the end of the day, because on our side, the child is more likely to feel that I can still do better even if I fail at this time, because of that optimism and that hopefulness that's continuously instilled in that child. We think that's extremely powerful. But the conclusion to this issue is that where you consider luck to be an essential element, it is when you have worked very hard and an opportunity comes along for you to strike an iron a spot. Understand that these opportunities do not come very often. And at that point when you need to put in all that hard work, under their contextualization, why would that child even care to work hard? Because immediately you're taught as a child that these are realities that you may not be able to face up with, and even if you try hard enough, you may still lose. We don't think that makes the child more comfortable with that reality, rather it turns them away from wanting to ever try to begin with. So their ability to grapple with failure is more likely to crumble that child as compared to want to overcome that failure in order to achieve more success. But finally, why do we think a child will be able to deal with failure in a better way on our side? Because we think that that failure is not seen as a limiting perspective, one that becomes a full stop in your story. Because that failure is only a stepping stone to moving forward because of the hopefulness that is ingrained in you. How do we think this materializes, right? Because when a child is immediately met with failure, the response that the teachers give them, the response that comes from the curriculum is that that failure does not define you and you can continuously do more than that to achieve yourself. We think in a world that has a lot of structures and privileges not accorded to these children, that's when that child needs to be able to equip with themselves the mindset to work against all of these sides in order to achieve that success. They don't give that preparation for their children. In every child's life, some more than others, there will be structures against them, and the only thing they have control over is the amount of hard work they put in, and that amount of hard work can only come if you believe and you have faith in that hard work, not one that is as defeatist as the way government paints it to be.
Thank you all for the speech.
So don't get blindsided by this talk of Kanye West, because it's easy to talk about people who actually hoped and then succeeded. But this debate is about people who hoped and failed. I think that was a context that was important in this debate. There are two things we both agree on Gov and All. Firstly, we agree that harsh realities are a fact. Secondly, we agree that children must encounter these harsh realities at some point in time. What they told us on this side of the house is that children are likely to give up. I think they don't answer the same question which I asked at the beginning of my speech. Why is it the case that when children are told theoretically about the harsh realities, that they give up? But when they practically experience these things later in life, they don't. I think that was something that they needed to engage with on their side of the house, but they didn't. Because on our side, we tell you theoretically that there are harsh realities out there, and you will have to engage with these harsh realities someday. That is something children have time to come to terms with and have time to actually understand. On your side, children are told that you will succeed and you need to be hopeful. Then they reach the actual harsh realities, and that's the first time they're actually getting to engage with the majority of these things. I think that's a world in which children are more likely to give up on all of those dreams. That is to say, a child is told to hope and become a doctor. A child is told to hope and become a lawyer. In the future, when they then get into those schools, that's when they face those harsh realities. I think that's when they're more likely to give up, as opposed to a world when they are told from the very start that you're choosing to be a doctor, you're choosing to be a lawyer. It is difficult. Many people give up on these things, and that's the harsh reality of life. You should be prepared for all of those circumstances that you will have to face. I think that's a world in which children are more able to come to terms with those things and stomach the possibility of actually failing. That was important and was left unengaged with on this side of the house. Let's analyze this argument that they say that children are going to give up. Look, I think all we're saying is we need to teach children about these harsh realities. There are two possibilities. There's a possibility, which is right, as they point out, that children might give up. There's also a possibility that children might then be incentivized to work harder. Because if you are a minority and if you are an underprivileged person and you're told that there are many things that are stacked up against you, that's a reason that you need to work twice as hard if you're going to be successful at all. I think that's a reason for many people to work harder. So in debate terms, if you tell a new debater that, you're definitely going to win that finals, at the point in which they don't break, that's something that is so disheartening to that person that they might actually quit. But if they are told from the first time when they're about to go to that tournament that you might not do too well, you might not make it in there, but if you need to work twice as hard, if you're at all going to make it. I think that's a world in which even if they don't break, they are more likely to give it a second shot. I think that that's something that is important in this debate. But the last theme, and I think something that even if you only buy this argument is enough to win this debate, the argument about how we build a society that cares more about other people. So Marx simply asserted that that's not what this debate is about. But I think the education system, and I pointed this out in my speech, is expected to create people and create a society that is conducive. That is to say, you shouldn't train people to go into society and become horrible people. On your side, whites continue to say that, I don't want to give welfare to African Americans because they should just work. I don't want you to take any part of my tax because why should I have to pay for someone's health care? Why should I have to take care of any other person? Because they are brought up in a system that tells them the reason you succeeded is because you work harder. That definitely means that your next door neighbor that didn't succeed didn't work harder. It's not because of luck, it's simply because they didn't work harder. I think that is something that's very important in this debate. Because even if we bite the bullet that people fail on our side, that's a world in which those failures are treated way better. Especially when you need to consider that failures exist on both sides of the house. The debate then becomes about how we treat those failures. I think failures are treated way better on our side. If you don't succeed, you have society that has your back. Extremely proud to propose.
Think about PhD controversial and silent. Yeah, it's silent.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Always. Always a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.